welcome to the DevReady podcast, where we're helping non-techs build great tech. Today, joined by Ronsley Vaz. We spoke years ago on the podcast, probably in the early episodes. Ronsley is a really heavy podcaster in the space, really supporting people with wearepodcast.com. Go check him out in that space. And also digging heavily into AI, engineering backgrounds. So quite an interesting mix. Ronsley can have a conversation and also develop something with a computer. Just recently launched a book, Amplify AI. Is anyone interested in embedding AI into their business? Go have a read. It can give you some real good strategies on the approaches that you might consider and what the value could be within your business. Ronsley, thank you for joining us.
Andrew, Guy, thanks for having me.
And been a bit of trouble going on at the moment. I've seen you all over the place. What's been going on? Books been a big hit for you. What's happening in your world?
You know, I think ever since AI came along, it's been interesting that what takes a lot of people ages to understand or learn, just comes naturally to me. So I've been speaking about AI for a long time now, and it's been interesting. I mean, what's been fascinating is how quickly people pick up on the expertise. Because before this, it was podcasting, right? And people didn't really understand, and still don't really. If you kind of go around saying that you're a podcast expert, people still don't know what that really means. So
what does that mean?
Yeah. Correct. I mean, things have been good. I just got invited to OpenAI's Dev Day, which was it's surprising, interesting, and really cool all at the same time.
Tell us a little bit about what happened there, because it would have been fascinating to see a little bit under the hood. What are people doing with AI, because it's moving so quickly.
Yeah, I don't think people. I think in general, as a computer scientist, you've got to understand how much what has had to happen in the background for us to have intelligence available like it is right now. How quick internet speeds have had to get, how cheaply we've had to be able to find a way to store data, and in small spaces and in large quantities. How we've been able to develop different algorithms that can pass through that data, understand that data, store that data in a way that's available for a neural network to understand that as intelligence. So there's a lot of things at play when you think about it, and putting a prompt into ChatGPT to understand that there's a lot of things happening.
There's so much going on in the background, and massive data centers and crunching, and the amount of power and electricity we're using. Yeah, there is a lot behind it, and wouldn't have been possible 10 years ago, really, when you think about it.
It wouldn't have been possible 2 years ago.
3 years
so
ago.
what? Yeah. There's certain things that I've been using now that have not been possible a month ago. So when you think about the evolution of AI, it's primarily. To answer your question about what I learned over there is I said this to you off air. It was the first event that I had been to in 2 years that I could have a proper AI conversation with people that understood the background and the back end of AI, and we could have a very deep conversation about what works and what doesn't work, and why just because a new model has come out does not make it a better model for your use.
No, it doesn't necessarily. No.
And I think everyone just thinks that the new iPhone or if it has a higher number, it's the latest model, it must be better. That's not how it works. So more and more, it was really good to watch how they were reinforcing that idea that smaller models are going to be more relevant, how use case models and fine-tuned models are going to be more the specifics of what's going to happen going forward. And one of the announcements on day 2 of the 12 days of AI, OpenAI announcements, was on reinforcement learning. And reinforcement learning, again, is a new leap in large language models, which I think people might have thought it was already doing, but it wasn't doing, and it's still not doing it. Reinforcement learning is when it gets smarter the more you use the model. Now the models don't do that. None of the models do that. They don't get smarter the more you use it. So there's some really big things happening, and some of the code in the background as well. They released this new feature where you go strict equals true and you can make database queries through intelligence. Now, a lot of things have got to happen for you to make a very good database query. So it was not possible before because intelligence is a large language model and it's trying to be helpful. So the data that comes out is not always factual. However, there are
No, it
now.
isn't sometimes.
No, it's not. It's not in general.
Yeah.
But when you're making database queries using OpenAI now and the dev in the background, you can actually switch the strict to true rather than false, and it'll actually use intelligence to make the right database query. Now, as a computer scientist, that's
In
very
the back end, it's writing code for you effectively. Yeah. So you're talking in human language, and it's basically able to interpretate that, put it into code, and give you an output. And as a computer scientist writing database queries, they can be quite complex. Years ago, when you're writing these big, long, truncated.
not
pieces
only
of
that,
code.
as a software engineer, one of the things that is the hardest is debugging code. So we would spend weeks trying to find out where the problem was, because we couldn't find out. It would run, everything would run fine, but it would just not execute the way we wanted it to execute, and we didn't know how and what was wrong. Now you can just say, debug this code. I'm expecting this result, and I'm getting this result. That's crazy.
Oh, it's come a long way. I haven't coded for myself for a good 10 years. But I remember, you spent weeks debugging, and the guys, that's the biggest problem with software. You're building things, it's the testing and the validation of building quality in code. That is the biggest challenge in anything in the software space. It's easy to build stuff up and spin stuff up, but the reality is to build good, solid applications is not as simple as it sounds, but it's getting easier with these tools. But they're not perfect, but they only as good as the information you give them too as well. If you give them too much, then they don't write as good code as they could.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. What everyone's sort of getting stuck up on is it is returning, but is it returning the thing that you want it to return? And some people are like, oh, it's not doing it. I'm like, you can get AI to hop on one foot if you wanted it to. You just don't know how to use it properly right now.
Yeah. What I've found the best way to use AI is to just do incremental steps, little bits and chunks and improvement on that. It's not about people write me an app to build me a Netflix app. It's not going to be able to do that. But it will be able to write you the code to build you a login authentication piece that integrates with All0. We'll go too technical, or something like that. It will be able to do that. So in bite-sized pieces, you'll be able to get to an outcome if you know how to guide it and structure it in a way where you will get to the outcome.
I think the only reason as well that it doesn't know how to do that whole thing is because the context is not, the context windows are not that large yet.
Context, too small. Yeah, correct. That's
so
true. Talk about the context window because they're expanding all the time. But so for everyone that doesn't understand what that means, what does that mean from a context window perspective?
So I think there are a couple of concepts to understand, and firstly, understanding that it is a silicon-based life form while we are a carbon-based life form. We require food and water to survive. It requires data and power to survive. It's intelligent on its own, so it's got its own intelligence, and its intelligence is based on the power it has and the data it has. So the power, even when you might think of power as only electricity, but power is electricity and compute. So it is the electricity that allows the compute to happen. That's what I mean by power. So the data is important, and when you think about it as an intelligent being, it also operates very similar to the human brain, because we've used neurology and psychology in computer science to build the artificial intelligence. So it is artificial intelligence in itself is a combination of 8 or 9 different fields like physics and math and computer science and neurology and psychology, and all these different fields have come together for AI to happen. So long-term memory, so the best way to look at it is long-term memory and short-term memory.
Short-term, yeah.
So long-term memory is the size of the model. So if the model is a large model, then you can say that this model has long-term, a lot of long-term memory. It's been trained on a lot of data. I mean, this is not how it's in the computer world, but I'm just giving you an analogy of how you can think of it. And the second is short-term memory. That's a context window. So how much does it remember when it's executing the prompt in short term? And that is the most important window, because sometimes you're chatting with ChatGPT or whatever, and it sort of hallucinates, or you think it hallucinates. Actually, what's happened is it's forgotten the previous part of your conversation because it's gone past the short-term memory or the context window. So the larger the context window, the more the short-term memory. And the best way to think about short-term memory is in human terms. If you said that someone has a high IQ, you are saying that this person can remember more things in their short-term memory when they are talking to you. That's what it means to have a high IQ. When they're functioning, they have a lot of capacity to have a lot of short-term memory. So the bigger the context window, it increases, the bigger IQ, I suppose, will get.
Okay.
However, it does depend on how the model is trained as well, and how the model operates, which does accelerate its intelligence.
It's definitely fascinating, and if you ever been in ChatGPT and you're talking in a long conversation, it will lose the top of the conversation. It's just a window that's moving, so as you're going through. So think of it that way, as something that you've got a block that you're talking into. If you throw up, I don't know, a 100-page words document, you try and pump that in there, it won't even let you do that. But if it did, it wouldn't be able to actually distill that quite easily. And what you find is the more information you give it, the less precise it is anyway. So you've got to be really poignant on it. If you throw in a PDF and you upload it and it's a 300-word document and you say summarise it, it's going to give you a little summary and it's not going to be relevant. But if you go in and pick in a couple of pages and summarise that, it's going to be better, more relevant, more specific. So it depends how you work with the AI.
Yeah, it also depends on which model you use. So if you have a model with a higher context window, then it'll remember more of the PDF, and so it'll summarize more of the document than a smaller context window.
Let's get into strategy and what we can do with AI in our business, because what we're seeing is, I saw a nice little photo of a bar of soap sitting on I don't know if you've seen this photo, jumping around, sitting basically on next to a tap, and then someone's put in like a pump into the soap and said adding AI into your software. So you're pumping the soap bar effectively. Quite fascinating. But there's a lot of that happening, right? People are just, let's put a chat in. Let's put an ability to update. I don't know, maybe it's expand on what we're writing. So using AI, from what we've learned, is you need to engineer your product AI first. But I'd love to get your thoughts on this in terms of how you might use it in a product and then scale it out into a business, because they're two very different things. But in reality, we're just trying to get an outcome and solve problems at different rates or at different ways than we ever did before.
100%. So that's your point, is exactly that, what you just said last. There's some really interesting memes, obviously, that are coming out. I find it fascinating who the people that are claiming AI expertise can't even fix a printer that's not working in the office.
There's a lot of that going on. AI training,
So, application. The best way is, if you're a business owner, what are the things that you're not good at, and use AI for that. Like, I promise you, that's the quickest and the easiest way to use AI effectively, is to use AI for the things you're not good at. So if you're already good at writing copy, don't use AI for that. Use AI for the things you're not good at, which is maybe project management or ideation or, I don't know, whatever it is. For me, it was writing copy was the hardest thing for me. Like, I could speak, I could deliver, on stage, I'm great. I've been on stage since I was 10. Like, all these things were fine, but writing marketing copy.
Since you were 10. How did you end up on a stage when you were 10?
I was captain of the elocution team and debate team and general knowledge team, and I was on stage for thousands of people when I was 12, I think. So
Oh, wow. All right.
So yeah, I mean, I get people to ask me this all the time. I mean, they're like, "Oh, so you really know how to speak on stage?" And what kind of, what did, like, who taught you, or like what speaker coach do you use? That's the question I get asked, and I'm
Got it.
like, I've been on stage since I was 10, so very different scenario. But
I
I was
suppose
very,
it's just being comfortable, right? So it's just being comfortable in the environment is the priority because a lot of people aren't comfortable in the environment, which makes it challenging.
not only, it is also being able to articulate yourself well, and that's what debates and elocution teaches you, is how to make your point and how to eloquently say that and how to use different
Yes.
vocabulary to make your thing. So there's different elements that work in your favor, and when you're on stage when you're young, I suppose.
So back to
My point
ninjas,
is
as you're
that, yeah,
saying,
my point is like, use
yeah,
it
we
for what,
digress. But
yeah,
what
yeah.
you're not good at. Yeah, that's a good point.
So say for example, whatever the thorns in your business have been, like if you're like, I've been in my business for the last 5 years, 10 years, 1 year, whatever, and I've not been able to get leads, or I've not been able to convert my leads. I've got get enough leads coming in, but I can't. I'm not converting them into clients, or I'm getting the clients and they're not staying. I don't have loyalty. I can't deliver properly, or whatever. Or I'm doing all those three and I don't know how to scale. It doesn't matter. It depends on where you're at in your business, and you can personalize it. So rather than dismiss AI and say it's not doing something, and if you're a really good copywriter and you're saying, oh, it doesn't write copy like I can, first of all, that's very ignorant of you. Second of all, yes, it can write
Very
copy.
ignorant, yes, it
Yeah,
is. Better than
yeah,
you, in
yeah,
my
better
mind.
than
But
you.
anyway, yeah.
And the third is like,
Yes.
use it for other things. Like, what are the things that you're ignoring?
Yeah.
Is it that you're not making enough offers, or is it that you're not putting out enough content, or whatever it is, right? Just go do that and use AI to do that, because it's better than not getting done.
A simple thing that I'm using AI for is just help. I'm not a good. I don't write very well. I can have a conversation. I can speak quite well, present quite well, but writing is not my expertise. So writing emails, Grammarly was my first little tool that I embedded in my workflow. But if I'm writing anything important, I just write it up and just dump it into pretty much ChatGPT. Fix this up for me, refine it, make me, yeah, that's all I do. Keep it simple, and it just makes it sound cleaner, more precise. And if you prompt it in the right way, you can deliver a better outcome. So that's a way I use it day to day. And then in our business, I would agree things you don't do well, but I would also agree. I will also disagree when going in on things you do well as a business and how do you scale. I think you said scale a little bit there. We had a bottleneck in our business, and that's where this DevReady AI thing came from, where we built a tool which really fixed the bottleneck. The bottleneck was we had a couple of people that could design product and engineer product, and the rest of the team was not really capable. So we AI enabled it, made it 5 times quicker for our team to do that, and now we can do a lot more. So in terms of the DevReady piece, which is what we do from a design perspective, over the last 6 months we sold more DevReadies into our business than we have in the past 3 years. To give a bit of context. So it just that scale and the ability to deliver quicker, faster, more effectively, and deliver on the promise
So,
is
so that
powerful.
so that's a great use case, right? I mean, it was a bottleneck, it
Yeah,
was a problem.
yeah,
Used AI on it, and like you got results
correct. Yeah,
that
yeah,
exceed the last 3 years. That's
yeah.
that's a
It's a massive use
perfect use
case.
case. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Just give people context of what can be possible. But that's taking your I think there's a IP in every business that you can take a process and really embed AI in. It supports, in my mind, the knowledge worker, someone that's got context and can empower them,
One
at
hundred
least at
percent.
this stage.
One
If you don't
hundred
know,
percent.
yeah, if you don't know what you don't know, then you just like the. It's not the blind leading the blind because probably if you're not just say, for example, like us, if you're not technical, you will be able to work with this thing, but you don't know if it's right or not. Or
Right.
you don't know if it's doing too much, because the reality of AI, it might give you too much context or content that you need to reduce things and simplify things. So
Yep.
that's the limitation that you have if you're non-technical in this example, or not the knowledge worker, or
Yeah,
that
I think
specific space.
you're 100% bang on. I feel like the first thing you do is apply to the things that are holding you back, and the next thing you do is apply to the things that really make you go forward. Like if you have a method, like for example, Gary Vaynerchuk's got a new book called Day Trading Attention. Day Trading
I've been listening
Attention.
to that book.
Are you?
It's a lot of information in that book. I mean,
There you go. So here, so this is a great. I built an AI for day trading attention for him and his clients, and instead of them reading the book, understanding the book, applying the book, and personalizing the book for them, they answer 7 questions, and it applies the whole algorithm of the book to their business.
Okay, how do I get access to that? Because that will just
That was built for them. So I'm actually what I'm doing is I'm launching Amplify AI Academy, and this month is and it's all the tools I've built for others over the years that I'm giving members access to. But not only that, I feel the academy is more for the ones who actually want to do it right, who want to understand how to do things easily, how to make a framework happen, not only apply intelligence to the framework, but make it happen autonomously, make it happen without human intervention, with intelligence, with the checks in place, with all that. So, yeah, I think that, to your point, is if you're already in a place that you're like, okay, I've already dealt with my shortcomings in the business, and because that will get you the most ROI if you want to look at it. Yeah. And the next step is take your current frameworks that are working really well and streamline the process and apply intelligence to that. Of course, yeah, 100%.
In terms of day trading attention, it's a fascinating thing, and one of the reasons why we started a podcast was because Mr. Gary V. We were listening to him, and when was it? 2000 and geez, when did we start this thing? 19, I think. Yeah, 5 years ago. And we had 5 people come to us in the space of a couple of weeks. Founders, technical people that had blown over $1 million in building tech and got nowhere. Had a chat to Anthony, and I said, maybe this is the thing we can start a podcast on. So we started sharing stories, and that's where it all started from. So I've always, listened to Gary, but a lot of his stuff is, you need to be it's like more compounding. So the advantage of the podcast is we can share clips, we can build an article from it. But I think it's more than podcasting, because that's one thing. What else can you do to add value to your audience? And maybe these days you've got TikToks of the world. How do you be a bit more funny or a bit more different in terms of the way your strategy is to attract different audiences? It just really depends on what your audience is. So that's a sidetrack, but yes, it's an interesting frame to think from. Make more content as much as you can, see what works, build ads around it. So,
well, that's not what he's saying, really. He's saying more find the cohorts and what the hypothesis of those cohorts are. But
he's also testing on different things and strategies, right? So
no, but
he's different cohorts.
He's testing the hypothesis. So you're first doing the strategy on the hypothesis. You're figuring out what the current signals currently in the market are. So what people are resonating with, and then you're applying the current signals to those cohorts, and then putting it out and seeing what kind of traction you get. So that's what he's saying, and he's saying that if you do enough of those reps, you'll find a piece of content that will go viral and pick up all the other pieces of content that you created in the last whatever X amount of time. So that's the thesis of the book, is how to get attention. So attention is more not about creating the content just like that. It's about distilling your audience into different smaller cohorts, making the hypothesis that this cohort will be entertained by this particular hypothesis, and then finding the current signals that are in the market this month. So, for example, if I don't know, for whatever reason,
Not up to the signal part, but that's interesting. Yeah.
yeah. So for example, right now the Hawk through girl is she's not, but if that was currently trending as a signal, then you'd use that signal and your hypothesis to create current content for attention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's all about attention. It's not about anything else, from what I understood.
It is. It is.
Yeah, so we're digressing again, but that's okay. But marketing is quite pivotal to business, and if anyone's looking at how do you automate, how do we bring AI to help us automate, there's a bunch of tools that can help you generate video, copy, and all these pieces to automate these things as well, or at least speed them up.
I believe that every CEO's main goal today in today's world is attention. Get attention. If you can get attention, revenue is easy, product is easy, hiring is easy, everything is easy if you can figure out attention.
Easier said than done, Ronsley. Tell us how you've driven attention in your world. Talk about it.
Yeah, in different ways. And in fact, 3 months ago, I decided that for the next 3 years, I'm going to become a student of attention, because before that, it was all engagement, right? It's all podcasting, how to keep people engaged.
Yes.
Now it's about how do you get attention. So different ways. I think one of the best ways to do it is to build credibility. Write good pieces of like assets. Create assets is a great way to build attention. I mean, I don't know whether I said this to you or whether it was the last interview, because I've done so many already. But I've signed 3 times more books in the last 3 months, which this book has been out, than in the whole of my first book, which has been out since 2016. And 2 months since it's been out for 3 months, but I've got 2 months of book sales. And that's at least 7 or 8 times more than all of the first book sales in total.
Is it because AI is more glamorous than podcasting? What do you think?
Well, I think that a couple of things. The first book was my first time writing a book, is one thing.
Yeah, so
experience
wasn't there.
Experience of writing the book, also the experience of being very knowledgeable in this field. Even though I was knowledgeable in podcasting, the depth of knowledge was not as much. I mean, now I'd write a better book, I think, on podcasting, because I've done it for so much longer. So different elements, definitely AI being top of mind right now as well is probably another huge element. So that attention is that. Another piece of attention is using day trading attention for sure. Like, what are the signals that are right now working? So when you're scrolling and you're looking at your phone and you're looking at things, what are the things that you're paying attention to? Right? Like, and if you're seeing the same thing a few times, like if you're seeing the same audio being done on a few times, then create a reel of that. But now, today's world, the best way to get attention is short form video. And if you're not creating short form video, then you're literally not, goddamn, like you're missing so many tricks. And even if you're getting 100 people, just even if 100 people are watching that short clip on one platform, that's better than 0 people watching that clip.
Yeah, I think we get a bit lost in what that means. And I was reading something on LinkedIn the other day, and they said, you've got 300 views of something. Now imagine putting 300 people in a room, and they had a picture of a little room talking, a room in I think it was a school or something, 300 seats. That's how many people have seen your video. So it is, I think we get a bit lost in, I only got 300 views, but there's 300 people that are still being attracted or looking at your brand, or at least seeing some component of what you're putting out there, and then you're staying top of mind. That's the goal for attention, to stay top of mind.
Well, I think everyone wants, this is not my quote, by the way, this quote is by Philip McKernan, and the quote goes like this: everyone wants to make an impact on the planet, but they want to look good while they're making that impact. So it's more an ego thing, like, see how many views I got, right? It's not really in making the impact that you're saying you want to make.
In terms of what you're doing with business, let's talk about that. So when you're going into organisations, supporting them with AI, what's trending right now? Is it knowledge bases? Is it building tools for their clients? Is it internal tools? Bit of everything. What seems to be trending when you're advising and consulting in this space?
I think most people want a chatbot first thing, and then I tell most people that a chatbot is just because just because it's the bicycle you know to ride doesn't make it a good bicycle to ride, right? So I think the best way first is to do an audit on the business, and in the audit find where is the leverage point, and then if you can find where the leverage point is, then you just document the current process, improve it and streamline the process first, then inject AI to make that whole process be more efficient, execute quicker, and more consistently. Then the leverage will just provide the result and the ROI. I mean, I've never said it like this, and I'm glad you asked me the question, but it's so simple actually. When you think about how to deliver value, if you know how to create an AI solution, that's it. Find the leverage point that will deliver what is the lowest hanging fruit. Like, go find that, and then find a way to harvest that fruit as quickly as possible. And then the company will go, oh wow, what else can you do? Like, it's simple. Then you find the next point.
A lot of businesses came to us in the beginning of work with a company like ours, which is a software consulting house, is where we sort of stand from. And they come to you and they don't have a CRM, or they don't have this in place, and they don't have that in place. And then there's no systems. They're working off Excel spreadsheets, and they want to go and build this end-to-end software solution. First and foremost, go and clean up your house a little bit. I think that's important too. What can you evolve just with simple tools, technology? We can embed AI quite simply. Some things we do is there's automation processes, Zapiers of the world. There's N8N we use quite a bit, where you might automate a workflow and then just put a bit of AI in there. Simple things like write a blog article for us. Anthony, my co-founder, we just got a little simple thing in ClickUp where you write a title, short summary, and then it writes a blog article for you, pushes it to the member of a team who reviews it, then he goes and publishes it, and it goes and automatically gets published through a workflow. Simple ways to really build it, but you need to have a process of we write articles first. So how do you write articles, and then how do you improve them? So I think it's just about process first, and like you said, how do you just then improve that process to make it more streamlined?
Exactly just that. And context. Give it the right context.
Yeah.
And it can do some ridiculous things. So, yeah, I mean, it's so powerful right now. You know, it's like, I think just using it is probably the first step. But also
understanding what it can do. Yeah.
But also understanding that it's such a developed field, and a YouTube video is not going to help you understand the whole thing. Like have some respect for the field, and understand that you should be dedicating some part of your life to understanding it, because it's so important. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, got it, man. What's your goal over the next 5 years? What are you seeing happen in the ecosystem? Because we're moving so quickly. What are you seeing that's happening? What do you imagine is going to be happening, where you can't fathom what's going to be going in the next 5 years? Where do you see it all going?
Next 5 years, it's evolving so drastically, right? Intelligence is getting more intelligent. Now, what O1 Pro, which was just launched yesterday, $200 for ChatGPT, it can not only ace, but it can exceed every human PhD with intelligence. Now, you think about that in general terms, that is insane.
It's ridiculous.
And people are saying People are saying $200 is a lot. Like, are you serious? $200 for that kind of intelligence is nothing. So the way it's going to work, I think, is like agents are going to come for sure. Agentic workflows are going to become a thing. But I think augmentation of human intelligence is definitely the thing you got to use now is like, what can you do to augment your intelligence, and how can you use AI to augment what you currently do? So things are going to change very drastically, and have already been changing in the last 2 years.
They are evolving. If you haven't been paying attention, then you're getting left behind significantly. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a
100%.
lot of movement right now. If you want to go learn more about Ronsley, thank you for joining us on the DevReady podcast, Ronsley. If you want to learn about his podcasting world, we are podcast.com. And if you want to learn about how you might embed AI in your business, go check him out at amplifyais.com. Ronsley, thanks again for joining us. Really appreciate you coming on. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll speak to you shortly.
Thanks, Andrew.